Hey y'all. um my baby girl, actually all of my children, they ask me so many questions about my life, and I love that I am alive to share those things with them candidly cuz they get the full scoop. It's getting ready to rain here, and I love rain, and my children love rain. They love that kind of weather. And I was thinking, like, I could never think of a time of where I didn't like rain. However, my daughter asked me a question, and her question was, when you were a teenager, did you, it was for her school project. When you were a teenager and you were going to school, did you do anything in school? And it happened to be raining when she asked me that question. And it made me think, damn, I do have a memory about rain that was a not so pleasant one. So I stood back on the counter and I looked at her and I told her there was one thing that I wanted to do really, really bad. And it got snatched from me. Um, and she said, what was that? I told her volleyball. She said, why volleyball? And I told her, um, when I lived in New York, my mother was in the military. And I was in gym one day and they were passing out the papers so you could take it home, get it signed for a physical. And I was excited. I took my paper home to get it signed for this physical because I wanted to play volleyball. Now, I had a younger brother. My brother is 9 years and 8 months younger than me. And I have a younger sister. So at that time, um, I was doing a lot of babysitting. I was doing 100% of babysitting. And I took this form home to my mom and I gave it to her. And I asked her if I could play volleyball. I really wanted to play volleyball. I wanted to do something outside of the house, aside from take care of these kids. Um, so I was always nervous to ask my mother anything. I was very afraid of her. And um, I held on to this paper for about 2 or 3 days because I didn't know how, one, to present it to her, two, how she was going to react. She was going to be having a good day, a bad day, if she was going to have a short temper, if she was just going to, be flatline with me. I didn't know. So I finally got up the courage to give her this paper to get my physical. So, over the course of those 2 or 3 days, I was mentioning volleyball to her. I was like, yeah, they just, opened up sports and they were asking everybody, if they wanted to play volleyball and, blah, 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 blah. And, it was always, mm-hmm, or, that kind of thing. And so, when I finally got the courage to ask her and hand her the paper, I handed her the paper and I told her, I said, Mom, I want to play volleyball. I mean, my best friend at the time, Shorty, was going to play volleyball also. And she had already turned in her physical and she kept asking me, she was like, when are you going to turn it in? When are you going to turn it in? And I kept telling her, I'm waiting for my mom. I didn't want to tell her, like, hey, I'm scared to ask my mom. So anyway, I gave it to my mom. She took the paper and she set it to the side and she said she would look at it. So a week goes past and she hadn't looked at it. It was still sitting in the same spot. And I asked her, the deadline is coming up for me to turn this paper in for this physical. Do you think you could look at it so I could, turn it back in? And she said, I don't know. I'm still thinking about it because who's going to watch the kids while I'm at work? And I asked her, I'm like, well, I thought, your schedule was going to get changed and you're going to, you know, be home earlier. And she said it was going to get changed, but I don't know what's going on with my schedule right now, so I don't know. I can't give you an answer right now. So I kept bugging her because my friend kept bugging me. And finally, she just stopped talking about it. She said she didn't want to talk about it no more. She would think about it, and when she had an answer, she would let me know. So every day I'm walking past this paper, this physical paper that's just sitting there. And I contemplated in my mind, shit, I'm just going to sign the paper and turn it in myself because I really wanted to do it. I really wanted to do it. And so she had been getting off early, like, and I'm thinking, okay, she just didn't tell me that her schedule changed. It just is what it is. So I'm going to ask her again. So I told her, hey mom, I'm not trying to bug you about the physical thing, but I only have 2 days left and I need to turn it in. If I don't turn it in, then they're not going to let me, play. And I guess she was tired of me asking. So she was like, okay, I'll sign it. So she signed it. And when she signed it and I took it back to them, I was so happy. I was so excited about it. I was telling my best friend, I was like, yeah, we're going to be going on the trips. And, because I had never done anything outside of my home. We lived like at a crossroads. My house was on the corner of one street and the park was diagonally on the other side of the street. I was never allowed to go to the park, even though I lived right there. Like, there were so many things that I was just not allowed to do, but I was excited about it because she was like, yeah, you finally getting out the house. We get to hang out. We get to do this. We get to do that. I mean, I was pumped about it. I was so pumped about it. So did the whole physical, and then like a week and a half later, they were passing out schedules for when practice was going to be. Now, she was still getting off early, so I'm like getting excited about it. Yeah, I don't have to watch these kids no more. I get to have a breather. And I remember the day of practice. I had been telling her, I gave her the schedule, handed her the schedule as soon as I got it, and I told her, these are the days that we're going to be practicing. She took the schedule, she put it to the side in the same spot where she put that physical paper at, and left it there. It did not move. And so the morning of, I told her, I said, Mom, don't forget, I'm going to be staying after school and riding the bus to practice, to volleyball practice. She said, okay, just like it was a normal day. Okay. So I go through the whole day at school. I'm so excited about it. I'm so pumped. I'm like, man, I really get to do something. I felt so grown. I was like, so anyway, it's after school, and I had never stayed after school before, and I didn't know what to expect. So the halls are quiet, and we were just walking around chatting, and it just felt so different for me, but exciting at the same time. So we walking around talking to everybody, and then we get on this after school bus, getting ready to drive to the gym where practice was going to be because it wasn't going to be at our school. So we're in practice. I'm in the gym. I'm getting dressed in the locker room, changing my clothes out. I'm feeling so refreshed, so excited. My best friend and I, we walked out there on the court. The court seemed so big and the lights seemed so bright and the net was so tall. The floor was so clean and shiny, and I had never felt so small in my life. Now, I'm currently at 40 years old, standing at 5 feet and 3 quarters. 5'1" and 3 quarters. And everything just seems so big. And so we out there, we got our clothes on, and they lining us up and letting us know what positions we're going to have. And so we're into it. We're like 5 minutes into practice. And the coach was like, does anybody want to try to spike the ball? And I was thinking to myself, I can't spike a ball. Look how short I am. But my best friend, Shorty, was around the same height. So I was like, okay, if she can do it, then I'm going to try to do it too. I might make a fool of myself, but I'm going to try to do it. So we're all, at the front of the net, and the ball is going back and forth, and, they're tipping the ball over, 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 over. And I said to myself, whether she jumps up and smacks it or not, if the ball comes to me, I'm going to hit that muff with all my might. So, sure enough, that ball came to me, and I leapt up on my feet, and as hard as I could, I spiked that ball so hard, y'all. Everybody was so excited about it because I was the shortest one there. They were so excited about it. They were like, "How did you jump that high? Oh my gosh, you did it!" Everybody was cheering and all that. And then all of a sudden, the coach calls my name in the midst of that. I turn around and I look. You won't believe it. My mother was standing there. And she told me that that was my last volleyball practice, that I needed to go home because she needed me to watch my brother and my sister, and that I wouldn't be able to play volleyball because it didn't work out with her work schedule. So I go to the locker room to get my stuff, and all of a sudden I hear this thunder. It starts raining so hard. Raining, raining, raining. It was raining so hard. I couldn't believe how hard it was raining. And that's what was going on in my mind. Like, man, it just rained on my parade. What a sad day. Like, it was a really sad day. And I held back tears. And you know how when you hold back tears, your nose starts doing this little sparkly thing and then your throat gets clogged up. It was one of those because I didn't want everybody to see me crying as I walked shamefully out of the gym. So we get to the car and she said nothing. I said nothing either because I didn't want to cry in front of her. I just wanted to listen to the rain. I just wanted to let the sound of the rain overpower my mental thought. So we get home. I go to my room. I take off my clothes. I lay down on my bed. I plant my face in my pillows and I cry and I cry and I cry and I cry. I was so embarrassed. I felt so defeated. I felt like everybody was going to be talking about what happened. And I didn't want to go to school the next day because I didn't want to face everybody. I didn't want to face everybody. But when we got home, she didn't leave and go to work. She went in her room and turned on Ricky Lake and started watching Ricky Lake. And I'm thinking maybe she gonna leave overnight to go to work. No, she went to bed. She got up the next morning at 5:30, went to work, and she was home before I got home the next day. And this continued on. So, to make this story short, her work schedule hadn't changed. She was still getting off early enough for me to have gone to practice on any one of those dates. Now, on this same sheet as our practice dates were the dates of when there were going to be games. So, you want to know what happened? My mother decided one Saturday morning, she's like, if you want to go and watch Shorty play volleyball, you can do that. And I looked at her and I was confused because, number one, you said that your work schedule was not going to permit me to go to volleyball practice. And now you're letting me go to a volleyball game, the very first volleyball game. But I didn't think anything. I mean, I thought a lot of it, but I was just like, I didn't think the way that I think now. And so I was just excited that she was going to let me go. So I told my friend, I was like, yeah, I can go to your game, your very first game. She's like, how can you go to the game for me and you weren't able to go to the game for yourself? And as naive as I was then, I was like, I don't know, but come pick me up. So I sat there and I watched her play. And while I was sitting in the stands with her mom, and her mom was cheering her on, her mom was so excited for her and, handing her water and all this other stuff. That's when I started feeling sad, like deeply sad. And at that time, I was afraid to think anything negative about my mother. I was scared. I was so scared to think anything negative about her. And so I felt like, that's just the way the things were, it's the way it was going to be. Um, and so when I got home, she asked me, how was it? And I told her it was great, seeing Shorty out there. I was excited for her. They won the game. And she told me, if you want to go to any other ones, you can. And so while I'm telling my daughter this story, she's looking at me like, and I told her, I said, I learned a very valuable lesson. Um, Looking at it in hindsight, the people who are supposed to love you and support you don't always do that. They don't always come through for you. And in that situation, I was able to see that my mother was okay, happy, at peace with having me sit on the sidelines, sad, and watch everyone else enjoy what I really wanted to do, than she was allowing me to be on that court with everybody else. I will never forget the way rain fell that night. That night, it did something to me. It crushed my spirit. It broke me in a lot of ways. Some of our mothers, they use the love that they have to raise us up into whomever it is they feel we should be. And sometimes that love is not enough. Sometimes that which they see as love is not love. And sometimes love is not in the equation at all. Power, domination, that can be the basis for a lot of their actions.